Hello Team FD and welcome back to Sunday Vibes. Yes, we're not in the pub this week, not enough manpower, but I'm with two very powerful men in Doogie Critchley and Zach Gelab. So, how are you fellas? Let's get this out of the way. Let's get pleasantries out of the way first and foremost. Doogie Critchley.
Yeah, I'm feeling extra powerful. I've just had my first vaccine, so I'm
Woof.
5G'd up, I'm ready to go. I've got Pfizer, I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm feeling fresh. Let's do it. Let's do this.
Love that positivity. Zach?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm good. Not as vaxxed as Doogie yet, but July the 1st. If you see me coming, I'll be vaccinated by one. You still need the second one, don't you?
Yeah, I can't wait for you to get vaccinated. Throughout this whole process, I've just been reminding people how young he is.
Oh, I'm so young.
This morning, I said
vaccine,
it to Mark Wright and Clinton Morrison. And they were like, "Oh, were you there for '96?" I was like, "Sorry, lads, I wasn't alive."
Oh, I've got longer to live. Oh, Zach, man.
Shocking.
I am getting
anyway,
old, though. Jesus.
Right, let's move on. We do plan to return to the pub, by the by, hopefully next week. And we thoroughly enjoyed being back out on the road. So this is very much a temporary measure. But what isn't temporary is our partnership with Bud Light. It's still here. And this week, it's, again, Sunday Vibes brought to you by our good friends at Bud Light, officially the official beer of England. And they had Jimmy Bullard in the JAR Arena taking on world champion freestyler Andrew Henderson in the final episode of Bullard's Boxheads this time round. Have a look at this.
Lasso strike. Oh my God, Boxhead! 4, 3, 2, 1. Can't believe it. I'm here. Time.
What a bloody strike there from Jimmy. And they've also actually asked us to partake in the keepy-uppy challenge. And we'll have a look at that later on. Truly embarrassing stuff. So we'll put that at the tail end of the show where hopefully no one will see it. Right, let's crack on with the main topic at hand. And now the group stage is over, we wanted to rattle through the 24 teams partaking at Euro 2020 to decide who has been each nation's best player thus far. We're going to go from Group A downwards because that just makes the most sense, doesn't it? Starting with Turkey, Dukes, who have underwhelmed to a huge degree. Who was the best of the worst?
Very slim pickings. I think Burak Yilmaz, Hakan Calhanoglu, Yazici, Yakushlu. We were expecting a lot. I think the worst was probably some of their defenders. I thought Soyuncu had a really shocking tournament. It didn't really matter whether he played alongside Demiral or Kabak. They were just all over the shop, really. I expect Sunil Gonesh will lose his job for a second time imminently. In terms of their best player, it's probably going to be Cengiz Ünder, the right winger, 23 years old. Had a very disappointing campaign on loan at Leicester City last year. Didn't really do much in the Premier League. A couple of good Europa League performances, but he managed to put that aside and play okay for Turkey. He had 8 shots in the Euros, which is just one short of what he managed in the Premier League in 9 appearances for Leicester last term. He also made 7 chances as well, which is one more than he managed for Leicester in the Premier League, which just goes to show that he did manage to slightly improve his form for Turkey. He also attempted the second most shots for Turkey, attempted the second most tackles, so was working hard. But yeah, just a highly forgettable tournament for Turkey, and anyone that predicts them as dark horses are just firmly in the mud.
Bang, that includes me. Yeah, he was absolutely honking for Leicester. When you can't get a game in the place of Iosi Perez on that right-hand side, particularly with Harvey Barnes getting injured. I know he played on the left, but still a wide man nonetheless. You know the move is probably not going to be made permanent. And, returning to his parent club. And he won't be missed, unfortunately. Moving on to Italy then, Zach. And 2 or 3 names could definitely be thrown in the hat here. Had some standout performers, haven't they, in what has been a overwhelmingly positive campaign so far?
Yeah, for sure. They've not necessarily been tested too much with the people that they've come up against, but you can only play what's in front of you, and a lot of their players out of that 11 have been very, very good. I mean, even Verratti could be in with a shout-out, even though he only played 1 game. What a game it was for him. But I've kind of gone with Jorginho as my main guy, but I also want to give a shout-out to Spinazzola, who's been brilliant on that left flank for them, completing dribbles for days, completing or attempting 8 at most out of the squad and completing 4 of them. He's only played 2 games as well, keep that in mind. And Locatelli's also been really, really good. It looks like he's moving to Juventus now to play in midfield for them, which is the most unsurprising move ever. An Italian player in Serie A moving to Juventus, who would have thought? But he's been really, really good. I think a bit of a surprise. He definitely added maybe like 10 million euros or so just by this tournament. Really came out of it, especially when Verratti was injured. We weren't too sure what that midfield would be, and he was kind of more the question mark out of them all, and has performed really, really well. That pass on the volley to the right flank and then going to score was ridiculous. But for me, the number one has been Jorginho. Maybe a little bit of Chelsea bias there, I'm not so sure. But he's really come on. Not just for what he's known as, for his passing, where he's completed the most in the squad with 203, and his dribbles, which has been 5 completed, 100% success rate. But also his defensive work, because normally defensively is where he does get caught out a little bit. He's not the fastest of players. He gets booked a lot for committing a tactical foul and making sure that the counter doesn't happen. But in this so far in the Euros, he's completed the most tackles and interceptions with 5 tackles and 7 interceptions, which is really, really good. Maybe he's learning a thing or two from N'Golo Kante, and he's really taken that form that he had under Thomas Tuchel with Chelsea, where he was really getting into it, obviously winning the Champions League and taking that into the Euros. I mean, they've yet to be tested just yet. I know they've got Austria in the next game. I think I'm actually going to it on Saturday, which just remembered. But yeah, so I think the game after that, whoever they get might test them a little bit more. But as I said, you can only play what's in front of you. They've done pretty well so far.
Yeah, and as good as Locatelli has been, I do wonder if Verratti will just return to the side. Like you said, emphatic against Wales. I think the most defensive actions in that game, as well as creating 5 chances. He was just running things, wasn't he? And he is the world-class component in that midfield. I do think Jorginho deserves a lot of praise, though. You're right, and I am a Jorginho apologist. Actually, I love him. Right, I'll take care of Wales then. I think there's one standout perform. Well, no, actually, it's been a great team effort, and Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale, of course, deserve a shout out for the way that they've sort of led that attack. But I think Danny Ward is the standout for me. Apparently, according to expected goals against, Wales could have or should have conceded 6.14 goals, but proceeded to only ship 2. So he has put in a big old overperformance in the sticks. He's faced the second most shots at the tournament, with 25 of those coming from inside the penalty area as well. So maybe, had the opposition made good on some of those high quality chances, there wouldn't be as much good feel factor around the Wales camp right now, but that's not how it materialised. Danny Ward is saving, I think, the second most shots per 90. I think it might be Finland's keeper that's top. That could have changed with the last round of games, but we'll crack on from there anyway. He only made 11 appearances for Leicester in all competitions last season, and in fact, when you look at his career, he's not racked up an awful lot of minutes. He had one standout campaign for Huddersfield when they got promoted to the Premier League. He went on loan to Aberdeen before that and impressed there at Pittodrie. But he's been pretty much a second-choice goalkeeper his entire career. So now he's got a taste for being the number one and being heavily relied upon. Maybe he'll force a move in the summer. And with Rui Patricio maybe going to Roma, with Gaeta now 34 at Palace, and Palace having a huge turnover this summer, maybe he's done enough to interest a middling club in the Premier League. Talking of players that probably deserve more minutes, I've put Shaqiri down for Switzerland. Would you agree? Because again, slim pickings, Doogie. I'm actually going to come to you for all the teams where there's been no standout performance.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I would agree with Shaqiri. I think similar to Danny Ward, slightly a forgotten man at Liverpool last season. Didn't get a lot of minutes. I'd like to see him make a move this year. At 29, he's probably got one more move in him. I think to a probably Europa League standard club is probably his level. But he's a great tournament player. He's a bit like Renato Sanchez at Portugal, just comes alive in the big tournaments. I mean, across his last 14 Euros and World Cup games, he's contributed 10 goals, going all the way back to the World Cup in 2014. And most of those, the goals at least I remember, have been absolute stunners. So Shaqiri has been the best of a quite mediocre lot from the Swiss, I would say. I think Brilliant Bowler had quite an impressive game against Wales, then they were pretty poor against Italy, and then they managed to beat Turkey in a very, very weird game, which just featured everyone shooting from all sorts of weird angles. But yeah, Shaqiri, definitely Switzerland's best player, but not been that impressed with the Swiss.
Love me a weird game. Let's move on to Group B then. Denmark, Zach, it's been a collective effort, but unlike maybe the Swiss, there has been several standout performers as well. I've gone sort of Højbjerg, potentially Damsgaard. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all things considered, with everything that happened with Christian Eriksen, like every single one of those players deserve a round of applause for the way they've handled themselves, and to get them back out there, especially literally after it happened, literally 2 hours after that, and then playing against Finland, and you know, unfortunately losing 1-0, they did have a penalty in the end that was saved. They've all done incredibly well, but yeah, Højbjerg and Damsgaard have kind of been the two standouts, shall we say. Højbjerg has completed the 12th most passes at Euro 2020, 229, the most in the Denmark squad, and has also completed 9 key passes. They're creating a lot of chances as well. They've been unfortunate at times. I mean, Yusuf Poulsen has been good, but he's also probably missed a few chances that they should have scored.
Yeah, I think they're averaging the second most shots, actually.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And against he's got 3 assists as well against Belgium and Russia. And against Belgium, Denmark were kind of unfortunate, if I'm being honest. They probably deserved to get something out of it. Until Kevin De Bruyne came on, they really looked like they might steal it and nick it. And they were unfortunate maybe not to get a point in the end. And then Damsgaard, as I said, he currently plays for Sampdoria. He's only 20 years old, but he's played twice for Denmark. 1 goal he scored against Russia was a fantastic curl. If you haven't seen it, make sure you do check it out. But he's also completed 6 dribbles as well for his country. And it's very much, as you said, a little bit Wales there. It's probably obviously they're a higher level than Wales, and I think they play Wales in the next game.
I'm pretty sure
they do.
Wales,
So maybe two teams based on team performances, but they've also been very, very good given the circumstances and done well. I mean, also should give a shout out to Christensen with his absolute worldie. I would say it's goal of the tournament, but it's not. It's probably Patrick Schick's.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Myler as well, at left back. I think he's completed the second most dribbles at the tournament. Been really good for them down that left-hand side. Yeah, a well-oiled machine, Denmark, and I think they deserve maybe a bit more credit maybe Hjulberg. Is it Hjulberg, the manager? Deserves a little bit more credit than at least I was prepared to give him prior to the tournament. I think I ranked him quite low on my ranking Euros managers. Let's move on to Finland then. Another team who are very reliant on, acting as a coherent unit, Dukes. But which individuals have you singled out?
Well, I think massive credit to the whole nation. It's their first major tournament. I think they've performed admirably. Their fans reacted really well to the whole Denmark situation with Christian Eriksen as well. No one really wanted to play that game, but the show of unity was just what the world needed at that particular moment. I think Lucas Radetzky's probably been their best player in goal. Was very unfortunate against Belgium to score that own goal. I always hate it when a ball cannons back off the post and then hits the goalkeeper, and he was made to look a bit of the fool, sort of clawing it back off the line. But then, Jerry Urinen as well, their left wing back, who's 26 years old, plays for Genk. I think he's been pretty solid, assisted their goal against Denmark. He made 4 key passes as well, won the majority of his ground duels as well, about to turn 27. So maybe he'll be someone that a lot of clubs in Europe's top 5 leagues might be considering if they've got an opening at left wing back for sort of a mid-table, lower to mid-table club. So well played to Finland. I think they've done themselves and their country a good service.
Yeah, the Jupiler Pro League, fertile ground for talented wing backs. So maybe he's ripe for the picking, like Duke said. Let's move on to Belgium. This one feels pretty easy, Zach.
Yeah, it's got to be Romelu Lukaku, who's really taken his form that it was where he was killing it into Milan and Serie A and taking that into the Euros. His hold-up play is fantastic. There's a little thing he did with Carragher when he was at Everton, talking about his hold-up play and how he believes no matter which defender it is, he is stronger than them and he will be able to beat them. He scored 3 goals so far in the tournament and only failed to not score against Denmark. But he's been key to dominating opposition defences. He's had 7 shots, the most in the squad, 6 coming from inside the penalty area, which is where he loves to operate. Spin that defender on his back and shoot from inside the box. And he could probably have a few more goals as well than he actually has. He's also completed 6 dribbles as well. I mean, back in the Premier League when he's playing for United, people used to kind of take the mick, I think, a little bit with his dribbling and his touch. But he's been pretty good in the tournament so far. And you know what? If I can't give it to Lukaku, I'd probably have to say then Kevin De Bruyne, because even though he's not played so much, he has been ridiculous when he's been on the field.
Yeah, pretty fortunate for Belgium that their forwards have been overperforming, let's say, because the back line has been less than dependable. And I am actually not convinced by them in the slightest at this point. Maybe they will prove me wrong and I'll shut my mouth come the quarterfinal stage. I'll take care of Russia. I was going to throw this to you, Dukes, but I think you've handled enough left field shouts. I'm going to go for Miranchuk at Russia. Maybe a little bit of Atalanta bias creeping in there. He scored one of Russia's 2 goals in this tournament. Pushed up into a sort of front 3 in a 3-4-2-1 against Finland and Denmark. So was playing out of position, but still coped with it very admirably. Racked up a decent amount of key passes, took a couple shots, was entertaining to watch in one-on-one situations. But yeah, ultimately Russia underwhelming. And let's move on to Group C as a result. Netherlands. Now I feel like people have forgotten that the Netherlands had a favourable group, and they are now, screaming about them from the rooftops, Dukes, the Oranje. Who really caught your eye, though, tickled your pickle from Frank de Boer's side?
I think there's quite a few, to be honest. I've been impressed with their defence. I think Blind, De Vrij and De Ligt is a really nice combination. Just imagine if they'd had Van Dijk in there as well, although they probably wouldn't be playing this system if they had Van Dijk. And then Denzel Dumfries on the right has been magnificent. I think Frankie de Jong has been absolutely outstanding. Player I just absolutely love to watch. His anticipation, the way he, uses his body to shield the ball. Sometimes not even taking a touch, just the way he sort of drops his shoulders, moves from side to side. He's just such a fun player to watch. And he's attempted the most dribbles in this tournament with 17. He's completed the most with 13. I think Memphis Depay's been outstanding as well. Some people on Twitter saying he's overrated after I gave him the big uns on Twitter this week. Can't really see it, to be honest. You might not agree that he was needed from Barcelona, especially them bringing in Aguero and the fact that he likes to operate in a similar space as Messi. But you can't not enjoy watching Memphis Depay, and he's been phenomenal. 2 goals, had the second most shots in the Euros with 11, 8 coming from inside the box. He scored a penalty. It doesn't seem to matter who he's playing up front with as well. Daniel Marlin he's linking up well with, Wout Weghorst as well, and then Wijnaldum as well. Just captain performances so far. He scored 3 goals, one of the top scorers. And you just feel like in that 10 position that he plays for the Netherlands, he just times his runs so well into the box. And I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans on Twitter now sort of complaining that he's gone to PSG and that they didn't fight harder to keep him. So, you never know what you had until it's gone.
Yeah, and Liverpool have subsequently been linked with John McGinn for £50 million. And that's not to say I don't think John McGinn is worth that money or he's not a very, very good player. But what's the point in not giving Wijnaldum what he wants from a contract perspective if you're willing to spend that sizable amount of cash on another player? Also worth mentioning that Depay, he's been a beneficiary of the tournament being pushed back, hasn't he? Because of that, was it cruciate ligament that he suffered in the 2019-20 season? Like, he's come roaring back from that injury and deserves an enormous amount of credit. I think he played the most minutes of his career in the 2021 campaign and contributed to 32 goals in almost as many starts. So his club form's very much continued into this tournament. Like I said, against inferior opposition, although I did think Ukraine had the ability to upset, and North Macedonia have given a very good account of themselves. In fact, let's move on to those two right now. Ukraine, Zach. I've gone for one name that people might be familiar with in the Premier League, and one name they might not be so familiar with. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, well, one player that also plays them is Zinchenko, but he's not on this list. It's Yarmolenko, who's really taken it forward for them up top. He's had 8 shots for Ukraine, the most in the squad, and also scored a ridiculous goal against the Netherlands as well. Sorry, he's also had 4 shots on target for his country. That's 2 more than he managed in 15 Premier League appearances for West Ham, showing that he seems to enjoy playing for his country maybe more than the Hammers. But yeah, the name that people might not know so much is Yaremchuk, who was unplayable against North Macedonia, hanging off the last defender and going in behind. He had 6 shots from inside the penalty area alone. He scored against North Macedonia. He scored and assisted against the Netherlands. And so far this season he plays for Ghent. He's assisted or scored 23 goals in just 28 league games. So you never know, we might be seeing a little bit more of him in the coming future.
Yeah, especially as Ghent finished mid-table, but I think he's stuck another £5 or £7 million on his price tag with his performances at the Euros, which his parent club will be very happy with. Let's move on to Austria then, because we are almost 20 minutes in and we've got a lot of teams left. Dukes, I know you had high expectations of Austria going into this tournament.
Yeah, I did. I like the makeup of their squad. I'm not an Austrian football fan per se. I haven't watched a lot of their games.
Outed you, mate. I'm an Austrian fanatic.
I liked a lot of their players. I think Sasa Kalajdzic at Stuttgart had a great year. Sabitz is a great player. Hinteregger at the back as well. But I've been slightly disappointed with him, except for David Alaba, who I think has been pretty useful playing at centre-back or as a left wing-back as well, who's completed the 10th most passes at Euro 2020. I don't think there's been a lot to shout about for Austria as well. I mean, Lehner, the right wing back who's playing on the right mid of a 3-1-4-2. He got that great goal against North Macedonia, I believe, in the first game. He's completed the 9th most tackles as well. Konrad Lehmer seems like he's coming back to form as well after such a disappointing injury-hit campaign at RB Leipzig. So Austria will just be delighted to have made it through the groups. And I don't think they'd won a game at a major tournament since the early 90s. So this is like a massive achievement for them. But in terms of a style of play, in terms of any cohesion, slightly disappointing. But maybe it just goes to show that sort of the mental side of it rather than just having great players.
Yeah. On the flip side to, being slightly disappointed, I was very impressed with North Macedonia. And I'm trying not to sound condescending here, but, they went toe-to-toe with the Netherlands, with other opposition in the group, Austria, Ukraine, for at least like the first 60 minutes in most games. They pressed high from the start. They played a decent brand of football, ran out of steam in quite a lot of those fixtures, particularly against the Netherlands. That was quite showing, wasn't it? Huge gaps in the defence towards the end of that game. But it was nice that Pandev had his big send-off against the Netherlands, that he got his goal. Of course, he captained the team aged 37. He's retiring post-tournament. Also impressed with young Elmas of Napoli fame, although I say fame, he doesn't really get on the pitch. I think the majority of his appearances have been off the bench in the last two campaigns for the Partner Pay. He's a central midfielder or attacking midfielder. He's looked, he's got a mazy little dribble on him. He's looked good at carrying the ball. He's actually looked a cut above some of his midfield partners in this tournament. Like, always makes himself available and is very efficient on the ball. So, yeah, props to those two, but props to the whole side, because I think North Macedonia made a very good account of themselves, gave a very good account of themselves in this tournament. Right, let's move on to Group D. Zach, you get the unenviable task of picking a man of the group stage for England.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't many shouts, let's be honest. It's not been amazing football that we've watched with England, but I think I have to give it to Raheem Sterling. I mean, in individual performances, in individual games, Calvin Phillips probably deserves a shout out after his game against Croatia. I'm trying to think. Saka, most recently against the Czechs, was also fantastic. But yeah, overall, it probably has to go to Raheem Sterling. I mean, the only guy that scored for us this entire time. He scored both goals for England in Euro 2020. And going into this tournament, I think a lot of people, when they were discussing the front lineups, were saying that Raheem Sterling shouldn't be in it. He's had a bad season. He shouldn't be in that starting lineup. It should be Jack Grealish and Foden or Sancho, who can't even get a minute or two at the moment. But he's actually not been that bad, really, in the Premier League. He's scored or assisted 17 Premier League goals in just 28 starts, which isn't bad. Obviously, by his form and his terms for the past couple of seasons, isn't the level that he'd probably want to achieve, but it's not terrible. And he really has helped England. He's completed 7 dribbles, 2 so far for England. But it's his runs in behind. Like, Jack Grealish and Phil Foden are fantastic players. They're so good on the ball. But they don't necessarily make the runs in behind that Raheem Sterling does. He's so quick. And we saw that in the first couple of minutes against the Czechs when he hit the post and was unfortunate probably not to score with it as well. And that's been really, really useful for us. We've seen Mason Mount find him, Luke Shaw find him with those balls. And yeah, I mean, if he'd played against the Czechs and didn't have to self-isolate, Mason Mount could have probably also got a shout as well. He's completed 8 tackles from his position in central midfield. That's the top 15 in the Euros. And he's also completed 8 dribbles as well, the most in the squad, really showing that he's kind of doing both sides of the game. And his chance creation has been fantastic. I mean, some of the balls he's been picking out and unfortunately maybe not been finished off have not been great. But yeah, it's not been amazing for England, but hopefully we're past the groups now. This is really when we start to see some entertaining football.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of not great, Croatia, Diggs, who have you got for them?
Not great at all. I think Kramaric, Rebic, been pretty disappointing. I think Luka Modric, except for that sort of very disappointing game against England where sort of Calvin Phillips was sort of all over him. I thought he was very good, particularly in that game against Scotland. Obviously got a goal and an assist in that 3-1 win. Scotland went into it with such massive expectations after that improved showing at Wembley, but the loss of Billy Gilmour seemed pretty important, really. And that goal was absolutely phenomenal from Luka Modric, outside of the foot. He's just been doing that for close to 15 years now, and he just deserves massive respect. I absolutely love Luka Modric at 36 to still be doing that. He's a phenomenon.
I'll take care of Scotland and the Czech Republic pretty quickly then, because we've still got 2 groups to get through after this. It was a weird one for Scotland, wasn't it? Because they had individuals that performed, really well in individual games, but maybe not anyone that gave a worldy account of themselves over the 3 fixtures. It was very much like Stephen O'Donnell against England, also Billy Gilmore against England. Against Croatia, Callum McGregor fared quite well, didn't he? Although he did lose Vlasic for that goal. He scored a goal of his own. So yeah, I'd say more of a collective effort from Scotland. They weren't outshot at the tournament. I think they had 41-4 and conceded 30. They outdid the Czech Republic and Croatia on XG as well. So if they got the rub of the green in either one of those fixtures, could maybe have seen themselves go through to the round of 16. I think just a good progression for Scotland from where they were a couple of years ago. Right, let's move on to the Czech Republic then. I've got Soufal down. I mean, no fullback won more tackles than Soufal in the Euro 2020 group stages. He won 70% of the efforts he went in for as well, so extremely decisive in the tackle. Although you could equally say Schick scored 3 goals, all of their goals right. Those goals guiding the Czech Republic through an unfancied Czech Republic. So either one of those, let me know who you prefer, Soufal or Schick, in the comments. Moving on to Group E then. Spain, Duke. So I've gone for Jordi Alba. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough. I mean, I couldn't watch their thrashing of Slovakia last night when they finally came alive in this tournament, but because I was playing football. But yeah, Jordi Alba's been really consistent. He's carried on that great form from Barcelona from about November onwards into this tournament as well. I think Busquets as well. A couple of his performances have been really solid. They'll just be looking to get more cohesion out of that front line as well. And for Murat to just finally step up to be the player that we all know he can be. He's got the attributes. He's so good in the air. He just doesn't back himself enough, and it just seems to crush him every miss. So Spain, they've got a lot of work to do. I think they're playing Croatia. I'd expect them to get through that, but then we'll see what happens after that.
Yes, nice. What about Sweden then, Zach?
Probably 2 players here that can be mentioned. I think Forsberg's obviously been fantastic for them, scored 3 goals in 3 appearances. He's also the only player taking 2 shots per 90 in that squad, which is even more impressive when you consider he's playing on the left with a 4-4-2. And then the other guy is Alexander Isak. I think he kind of came into it, obviously, with there was the news about Zlatan Ibrahimovic obviously not making the squad, being injured and that. And then he's come into it and really kind of, for his age as well, taken it into his stride. Had a very, very good game against Spain. I know he didn't score, but he did kind of everything else. He really good on the ball, can pass, can dribble, decent in the air, can shoot as well. And so he's someone that I think maybe not his tournament just yet for him to come alive, but by the next one, who knows, in the World Cup or so, we could really see the new kind of striker for Sweden.
Yeah, and has a release clause of £60 million, so well worth keeping your eye on his situation throughout the summer. Of course, Dortmund can buy him back for half that amount as well. So, yeah, really interesting to see if he'll still be at Sociedad next season. And like you said, Forsberg, just as well he did turn up, because this is a very functional Swedish side, isn't it, in that 4-4-2. Pretty... not that easy on the eye, but they get the job done, and Forsberg was the only player taking over 2 shots per 90, and my God, have they needed him for those fixtures. The game against Poland, it was 3-2, but it was still pretty dull. Talking of Poland, I think you can only go to one man here. That is Robert Lewandowski. Zielinski was decent as a supply line after match day 1, but Lever got his 3 goals, didn't he? Zielinski was only one of 4 players to assist. Did average the most key passes though, so I'm still going to go for the Bayern Munich hitman. Although shout out to, I've got here, probably going to butcher his name, Berezinski, who averaged 6 defensive actions per 90. That, my friend, is an absolute shift. Dukes, you can smash Slovakia and Hungary. What a double header for you, mate. What an absolute
thank you, Chris. Lucky day.
Yeah, who have you got for those 2 teams?
Yeah, Christmas has come early for me. I think for Slovakia, it's got to be Milan Skriniar for his performance against Poland.
Yeah.
Shackled Lewandowski really effectively, grabbed a goal as well. Just a phenomenal centre-back, can do it all. Needs to move on from Inter Milan if they're going to drop down the pecking order and not going to be competing for the title next year, which they might not be doing if Hakimi leaves, if Inzaghi comes in. We'll see what happens there. And then for Hungary, I think it's got to be their big striker Saloy up top. Great goal against Germany last night. Diving header after an excellent ball into the box.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw him play, I was like, who is this guy? Can Sunderland sign him? Turns out he's 33 and playing for Mainz. But he just looks like he'd be a real handle in League One. So still no. So yeah, he's not swapping Mainz for Sunderland. But I'd love to see him rip it up in League One.
Yeah, I mean, Fiola, good defensive output from him throughout that tournament, playing on that left-hand side in the 3-5-2. I think he's a right back at club level, so he switched it up really well. And I was getting mixed up with, is it the guy who scored, Saloy, and Salai, Roland Salai, who got 2 assists. Unknown entities to me quite clearly, but gave good accounts of themselves. This one might be slightly easier, Zach. Who are you going for from a Portugal perspective?
It's got to be Cristiano Ronaldo, doesn't it? 6 goals and assists in just 3 games is quite frankly ridiculous. Yes, a couple have been penalties, but you've got to finish them. Only Immobile and Lewandowski have taken more shots per 90. And he just does what he does so well. Like everything about him, even though he's 36 years old, I think he's now level as the most goals in
with Big Ali dying.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I think he really kind of taken. Cause I think I probably expected a little bit more from Portugal, if I'm being quite honest, and he's really kind of taken them by the scruff of the neck and kind of pulled them through in the end. Was very good against France, it has to be said. And also Renato Sanchez. He deserves a shout out as well. He didn't really start the first couple of games, but was good against France last night. Obviously we shoot this on a Thursday, they played on Wednesday. So yeah, those two are probably the standouts. Bruno Fernandes, not so much.
Yeah, Nelson Semedo's been shat on from a great height in this tournament. But he had a couple good games and then a fairly poor showing against France. But I can't really think who else has really stood out for them in this tournament. Do anyone spring to mind for Portugal?
Not particularly. I think it was really pleasing to see that Fernando Santos moved away from the Danilo Pereira and William Carvalho duo that they played against Hungary for so long. I thought Bernardo Silva had a really good game against Luca Hernandez last night, actually. Now it comes to mind. I thought in that first half he caused them all sorts of issues. But Portugal, everyone knows what's happening with them. That clash against Belgium is absolutely mouth-watering on Sunday night.
Huge.
I think they're going to do Belgium, to be perfectly frank. Yeah, like you, much preferred seeing Sanchez and Moutinho come into that midfield. Looked much more balanced without Bruno Fernandes, which is worrying for him, I guess. Let's see if he starts the next game. Jury is still out. I'll take care of France then, and I think this has been fairly easy. Paul Pogba has been instrumental for them, hasn't he, in the group stage. He's doing everything. 3.3 defensive actions. He's creating 1.7 chances. He only has 1 assist. Probably deserves more, given the array of beautiful through balls that man has been producing at this tournament. He's winning 2.7 fouls, which is number 1 in the squad. He's averaging 6.3 long balls, which is not surprising, given he's really got his eye in at the base of that midfield, hasn't he? So, I mean, he is alongside Kante, so he does get a sufficient amount of protection. They're quite a conservative side, aren't they, France? They've not been the most adventurous, so haven't been caught on the break or whatever, but he has been their controller, and I've really, really enjoyed watching him. What about that Rui Patricio save from him?
Oh, great.
Oh, world class. Right, let's wrap it up on Germany then. Let's all finish off with a suggestion for Germany, because of course they are England's opponents in the next round, are they? Woof. I want your thoughts on that as well. So, Dukes, who are you opening up Germany's account with?
I wanted to say 2 players, but I'm sure one of you will bring up the second one. So I'll go with Robin Gosens for that performance against Portugal. I thought he was absolutely immense. It's great to see people wake up to his abilities. He's been phenomenal for Atalanta in those runs in behind for a number of years now. And it's one that no matter what formation England play on Tuesday, whether it's 5 at the back or 4 at the back, Walker or James, whoever's on that flank is going to have to be fully attentive to those runs.
Yeah, the only fullback, I think, that scored 20 league goals since the start of the 2019-20 season. That man is an absolute problem on the left-hand side. And has been subsequently linked with a big money move to Barcelona. Don't know where they're getting their money. So, anyway, Zach, who are you saying for Die Mannschaft?
I think Kai Havertz has been pretty good,
I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I think he's been really... I don't necessarily think he's had exceptional performances, but he's been a real nuisance to defences, like a real nuisance. Against Portugal, Pepe and Bruno Diaz couldn't couldn't deal with him. They really couldn't deal with him. He's just always there. Like, he's not necessarily the strongest guy, but he's actually pretty good in the air. Seems to always, the way Germany are playing with those crosses, those low crosses inside the box, is always there for the defenders to think about at least. And obviously they've a couple of own goals have been scored with him kind of being the guy that's pushing them towards doing that. And yes, even obviously was quite important yesterday against Hungary, scoring that header. So yeah, I think he's been really good. I'm really interested for him next season. I think obviously we've got we'll be probably facing him, and he'll be their striker when we play them for England. But I'm really interested for him next season. I've got a slight out there shout that he might win Player of the Year next year.
Wow,
it's a very out there shout.
Right, the Euros hasn't even finished, and you've come out with Premier League Player of the Year. I love it. What a way to round off the group stages. Yeah, I agree. He's been a real focal point for them, hasn't he? In an attack that has lacked one. Thomas Muller's underwhelmed a little bit at this tournament, but yeah, he's been a real handful, physically speaking, which you don't think when you see him, and he looks quite stringy, but he has. He's been putting his weight about. I'd also say that Kroos and Hummels deserve a bit of a shout out. I think the veterans have put in good performances for the benefit of the team as well. Like, Kroos' natural game isn't necessarily at the base of midfield making tackles, but he has been doing that. Hummels has been up and down that pitch like a madman, hasn't he? What a through ball it was, a little dink through ball to the right hand side for Germany's equaliser against Hungary, I think. Anyway, that's eluding me right now, that whole scenario. But they are our players of the tournament for each respective nation. Where did you agree or disagree? Let us know in the comments below. We will be hitting you up in the first hour. Now, to, just undo all of our good work this episode by displaying, our lack of ability with a box on a head, which actually kind of feels fair enough.
Right, here's my keepy-uppy challenge for Bud Light box head. First of all, with my Sunderland 97-98 ball. Not looking too good. But could it be worse with this? Ow!
Chris Hamill, box-to-box midfielder.
3, 2, 1.
Legend, caught it. Next.
I can't even drop on my foot.
Yes! 3!
Start with the knee. Oh!
My nose gets cropped.
Oh, is that 4?
4! Take it.
Everyone drink responsibly.
Right, moving on to quick fire questions then. We have got to wrap this show up because Zach's got to go and get his, jab? No, you're going to the dentist, aren't you?
Indeed I
am. From my one XSFC. The most disappointing player at the Euros so far. You're doing this on Continental Club, right, Dukes?
Yeah, we are. We're doing this on Continental Club, so go check out, mine, Mikey, and Henry's big thoughts on Friday's show. So you guys go for it. Zach, who would you go for?
Oh, I put him down as he was going to be the player of the tournament. So to see kind of what Kylian Mbappe hasn't really gone on to especially after his World Cup a couple of years back. Hasn't really set up the tournament alight. Has been a little bit disappointing. I think that's kind of been with the way France have been playing in the group stages. As you said, very kind of defensive, not really willing to put too many players forward. So he's had a lot to do. But I've been a little bit let down by him, I'd have to say. A couple of, I think maybe England in general has been a little bit disappointing. But that's probably my suggestions.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Harry Kane, and the explanation not necessarily needed. Let's move on to personal questions then, and this one's a bit of a weird one, but I enjoyed it nonetheless, from Mikey Jones 1. If you had to change first names with someone on FD, who would it be and why? Zach, I feel like this is bang up your street, so come to you first.
Bang up my street. Oh, there are quite a few. I quite like my name. I'll be honest. I like my name. I think Zachary's a lovely name.
Classic Zach answer.
That is a classic answer, yeah, for sure. Sunny. I like the name Sunny. I think that's quite a nice name. Different name. Trying to think who else there is, to be quite honest. I'll go with Sunny. Why not? Doogie. I like the name Doogie.
Oh, that's kind. I think we've actually got, looking at it, quite traditional names in the office. I think Sonny, Doogie and Kieran, before he left, were the only sort of quirky names. I'd probably go with James. I think it's just a solid name. Got a lot of good mates called James. I don't really know any twats called James, so I'm going with James.
Jay's quite a cool.
Jay is cool, yeah. I don't think I could pull off Jay, though, is the only thing.
Yeah, you couldn't be. Yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah, you make a solid James.
You could be a Sam as well, Doogie. You could be a Sam.
Oh, I do like the name Sam as well.
You could
And
be
George,
Sam.
actually, is a good name. Yeah,
George is a good name.
In
Patrick's
short,
a nice
Doogie
name.
would take anyone's. Yeah, I reckon Michael, because there's about 4 Michaels in my family. Because like Scottish and Irish people pretty unimaginative with their names, aren't they? It's like John, James, Michael, Paul, or whatever. So yeah, it wouldn't be too out of keeping with the rest
Michael
of my family.
Hamill sounds good as well. I think that was what it was meant to
Oh, that is a great first and second name. That's if you have a kid, if you have a son, you have to call him Michael. That's unreal.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Right. I mean, I don't know really how else to segue it into the end of the show from that. It's pretty difficult, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed our box head challenges at home. That'll be the first and last time you see us do that. Guys, have we got anything to plug across the Football Daily universe? Zach, what are you saying?
Why don't come over to Snapchat? We give you guys daily stories and also the latest and greatest news about transfers on our show on Football Daily and on Transfer Talk. So check that out.
Yeah, unreal output. The boys producing 10 clips a week on Snapchat. Make sure you go and check it out. Do them justice, Dukes.
There's no EFD Explained today because, as Chris said at the top of the show, we're a little bit short on manpower this week. So instead, we've done 10 smartest signings of the summer so far. And I actually think there's a load to choose from as well. So go check that out on Euro Football Daily.
Who'd have thought we're short on manpower around, you know, the various England fixtures? People just nursing hangovers during the Euros, but it's been well deserved. Yes, well, that's it for this week. Thank you very much, guys. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.